As a human movement specialist, my number one priority when creating a program is what exercises should I prescribe to my clients that won't just help them in the gym, but help them improve their ability to perform daily activities. Whether you're walking your dog, mowing the lawn, or picking up a toolbox in the shed, we engage our core. As mentioned in the previous video, our core is used to stabilize the spine. Without the ability to maintain a rigid position, even when performing the simplest of tasks, we jeopardize the integrity of our lumbar position. Flexing and extending at the spine can lead to injury such as disc herniation. So, how do we train our core? Well, first we need to break down the anatomy to understand how things work. The core is made up of three components that act to oppose extension, rotation, and flexion. First, we have your rectus abdominis, which originates primarily from the pubic bone and inserts into the lower portion of the rib cage and the sternum. The transverse abdominis originates from the thoracolumbar fascia, the lower six costal cartilages, as well as from the iliac crest. Its insertion is into the pubic crest and the linea alba. Their role is the same, to oppose trunk extension. Next, we have the obliques. Your external obliques originate on the ribs and insert primarily into the linea alba, which is essentially a thick band of fascia that connects the right and left portions of the abdomen. Your internal obliques originate lower on the core, from the iliac crest, which is the top of your hip, and the thoracolumbar fascia near the lower back, and cross beneath the external obliques, forming an X and attaching into the lower ribs and, again, into the linea alba. When the obliques contract bilaterally, meaning that both sides contract together, they flex the trunk. But when they contract unilaterally, the external obliques pull towards the midline of the body, while the internal obliques pull away from the midline. This in turn allows them to oppose trunk rotation and perform lateral flexion. Last but not least, we have the erectors, which are primarily made up of the iliocostalis, the longissimus, and the spinalis. For simplicity purposes, we're just going to assume that they originate at a lower point than they insert, spanning from the sacrum to the nuchal ligament in the neck. These muscles oppose spinal flexion. Taking this into consideration, knowing that sit-ups are out of the question, what can we do to target the core musculature? Well, I like to split core training into four categories: anti-flexion, anti-extension, anti-rotation, and anti-lateral flexion. To start, when performing anti-flexion exercises, our primary focus is on the transverse and rectus abdominis, with the obliques functioning as a synergist, meaning they assist with the exercise. My favorite way to train for anti-flexion is with a plank. The great part about the plank is we can alter the difficulty through small variations to match the fitness level of any client. In a 2014 study by Snarr and Esco, they compared the muscle activation of the abdominal musculature through EMG recordings of different plank variations with and without instability devices. The findings for this article were fairly straightforward. They said that when executing a plank on an unstable surface with either a Swiss ball or a suspension device, EMG activity increases, meaning you get greater muscle activation. We can also decrease the difficulty by planking from the knees or putting the arms on an elevated surface. As stated earlier, the obliques have three functions. They contract bilaterally to oppose extension, as well as they contract unilaterally to oppose rotation and lateral flexion. Therefore, there are three different exercises, each with their own variations that can be used to train the obliques. For anti-extension, we can use the plank variations mentioned earlier. For the second function, we can use a pallet press. For this exercise, the body is perpendicular to an anchor point that has a form of resistance, either being bands or pulleys. Again, this exercise can be varied by increasing the distance from the body to the anchor point if using a band. You can also increase the resistance of a pulley. Furthermore, we can change the base of support by decreasing the distance between the feet or performing the exercise on one foot. We can also decrease the difficulty of this movement by keeping the hands and the resistance closer to the body. This in turn decreases the lever arm and reduces the torque placed on the trunk. The third function of the obliques is anti-lateral flexion. In a 2014 study by Youdas et al., they analyzed EMG activation of the core musculature on the ipsilateral and contralateral side when performing a bridge or plank exercise. Based on the findings, they determined that the side bridge provides strengthening benefits to the core and abdominal muscles on the ipsilateral weight-bearing side, meaning the side closest to the floor. Since the side bridge or plank is an isometric hold where the body is not required to manipulate the spine into flexion or extension, this would be a great exercise to train the obliques. Like the other core exercises, the side plank has its own variations we can use to change the difficulty. It can be performed from the knee, and from the knee with the contralateral leg up in the air. This can also be performed from the feet, and from the feet with the contralateral leg up in the air. Posterior trunk muscle activation is the final component of core training. In a 2007 study by Hamlin et al., they analyzed trunk muscle activation during dynamic weight training exercises and isometric instability activities. From this study, they determined that working with loads of 80% of the 1 rep max in the squat and the deadlift exceeded upper and lower lumbar spine activation when compared to the Superman exercise. Since the Superman requires the individual to perform an isometric hold with the spine in an extended position, it's a no-brainer that training your erectors is best done through heavy squats and deadlifts. Nonetheless, because high core muscle activity is associated with high spinal compression forces, always consult a medical professional if you are currently or have experienced intervertebral disc damage. Muscle activation patterns should be considered before implementation of any of these exercises into your own programming. If you have any questions on the current topic or would like further information on the subject, feel free to leave a question in the comment section. You can also take a look at the articles used in making this video in the description box below. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe.